Plymouth General Hospital, 6 in the morning. A new nurse, silent, moved through the sterile corridor. "Oi, newbie, come to fold sheets or have a cry?" Scoffing laughter echoed behind her. They called her the quiet one, dead weight, a silent ghost. She ignored them, keeping her head down, focused on her work. Suddenly the floor trembled deeply. A deafening roar rattled the ceiling. Security Officer Miller burst in, shouting, "Royal Navy Merlin helicopter landing." "They're asking for a Royal Marines Commando trauma specialist." Officer Thompson stormed in, yelling, "Where is Specialist Dr. Anya Sharma? We need her, now!" Dr. Anya Sharma, 29, was a ghost of who she once was, a former Royal Marines Commando trauma specialist, a rare elite who left the service after the catastrophic Shadow Ridge catastrophe. She lost her entire team that night, every single one of them. The weight of that failure, the trauma, it had reduced her to someone unrecognizable. Plymouth General Hospital was meant to be her sanctuary, a place where routine was the highest form of drama, a place where she could finally be silent. She needed the simple, repetitive rhythm of civilian life to quiet the ghosts of the battlefield. She began her first shift hoping to blend into the sea of scrubs, but her reserved demeanor and quiet intensity, the very things she sought for peace, made her an immediate target. The team saw a small, cautious woman who neither introduced herself nor made eye contact. They presumed inexperience. They noted the awkward hesitation when anyone inquired about her previous medical roles. They concluded she was shy, perhaps even incompetent. Nurse manager Vivian Croft, a woman who thrived on power and intimidation, immediately sensed what she perceived as weakness. "Newbie, you've missed 2 items on the supply count. Do it again and faster this time. We don't have time for slow learners." "Sharma." Anya's reply was always the same, soft, precise, obedient. "Yes, Nurse Vivian. I'll correct it immediately." Dr. Ethan Davies, a senior registrar, muttered to his colleagues at the nursing station, loud enough for Anya to hear, "How did she get her license? Looks like she'd faint at a paper cut." They couldn't see the truth. They couldn't see the woman who once performed an emergency cricothyroidotomy in total darkness, under continuous enemy fire. They couldn't see the brute strength that allowed her to carry a 90-kilogram Marine for nearly a kilometer through a hostile zone while bleeding herself. The warrior was locked away. Anya wanted her to remain that way. She just wanted to empty bedpans and monitor drips without incident. But true confidence, much like true trauma, is never buried for long. It always forces itself to the surface when the moment demands. It happened around 9:30 that morning. The shrill blare of the code blue alarm ripped through the air. Patient 312, Mr. Arthur Jenkins, a frail man scheduled for a minor procedure, suffered a sudden, unexpected cardiac arrest. Chaos erupted. Panic is contagious, and it instantly overwhelmed the civilian medical team. "Crash cart. Where are the pads?" Nurse manager Vivian Croft shouted, her voice tight with fear, fumbling to find the correct medication. Someone grabbed the adrenaline quickly. Anya moved. No shouts, no apparent haste. Just a continuous, efficient, almost unnerving motion. She gently pushed nurse manager Vivian Croft aside, her voice cutting through the panic like a scalpel. Silent, yet absolute. "Adrenaline, 2 milligrams. Immediately." Her tone was no suggestion. It was an unnegotiable military command delivered with icy calm. Nurse manager Vivian Croft stared at her, too stunned to speak. "Who are you to give me orders, Sharma? You're the newbie." Anya did not engage. Her focus was entirely on Mr. Arthur Jenkins' chest. With hands interlaced, she began compressions. Deep, perfectly rhythmic, impossibly strong. She counted internally, a life-or-death metronome marking a perfect cadence. The chaotic energy of the room immediately focused on her hands, on her rhythm, on her unshakable calm. 40 seconds. The exact time for medications to be administered and the defibrillator shock to restart the faltering heart muscle. Beep, 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 beep. The monitor registered a rhythm. Unstable, but clear. Sinus rhythm re-established. The room exhaled in a wave of overwhelming relief. Dr. Ethan Davies, the man who had doubted her courage, looked at her. His face a mixture of admiration and professional confusion. "Where did you learn that?" That precision, that timing. Anya stood, her face instantly returning to its familiar mask of reserve. She offered only a simple, evasive truth. I've worked in places where there's no margin for error. Error means death. Nurse manager Vivienne Croft, regaining her desperate temper and need for control, immediately intervened. You acted outside protocol, Sharma. We don't need maverick heroes breaking procedure here. She tried to sound authoritative, but her voice faltered. Anya simply bowed her head, stripping off her gloves, the failure weighing on her posture. I apologize, I overstepped my bounds. It was not an apology for saving a life. It was an apology for the conflict, for being dragged back into the spotlight she despised. She was tired of fighting. She was tired of being the warrior. The patient, Mr. Arthur Jenkins, was taken away an hour later, stabilized. He met Anya's gaze and gave her a tired but knowing smile. That young woman, he told his daughter later, she has the hands of someone who has saved hundreds of lives. I saw it in her eyes. Pure fire. Fate, however, had no interest in Anya's silent retirement. He was interested in the professional she had buried. Barely 10 minutes after the cardiac arrest incident, the ground began to tremble again. This time, it wasn't a gentle tremor. It was a violent, rhythmic shaking that rattled the entire ward. The deep, thundering sound of heavy aircraft rotors became deafening. This was no routine air transport. It was an incursion. Security Officer Miller, now pale and sweating, burst through the door again, shouting over the roar of the engines. It's the Royal Navy, an emergency landing. They've taken the roof for an operation. Everyone rushed towards the stairwell, drawn by morbid curiosity and a primal need to witness the unfolding drama. What kind of emergency demanded such a massive military intervention in a civilian hospital? On the roof, a dark Royal Navy Merlin helicopter, a combat transport, was landing, its giant rotor wash blasting snow, leaves and debris into a violent, blinding vortex. A man in full combat gear, a Royal Navy Special Forces officer, identifiable by a distinctive Special Forces emblem on his chest, leapt from the side door. He bellowed, his voice strained and desperate against the engine noise. We're looking for Commando Trauma Specialist Dr. Anya Sharma. We request critical, immediate medical support. We need her now. The word Royal Marine hung in the air. The word specialist. The name Sharma. Every head in the corridor turned in unison. Every nurse, every doctor, every intern stared at the small, quiet nurse who was still, unbelievably, calmly folding a blanket onto a supply trolley, attempting to continue the normal. Nurse manager Vivienne Croft's jaw dropped. She stammered, unable to form a coherent word. You. Anya looked up. Her eyes, usually veiled by fatigue and reserve, widened with a raw, undisguised flash of pure horror. She had run. She had hidden. She had changed the name on her employment file, but they had found her. The past was violently ripping its way back into the present. The officer, Commander Alistair Finch, found her, his face a grim mask of military urgency. Dr. Sharma, thank God you're here. Please, we have a Royal Marine in critical condition. We couldn't risk field transport to a distant military base. You are the nearest trauma center, Doctor. The title echoed through the crowded corridor, confirming the unbelievable truth about their quiet one. She tore off the flimsy blue hospital gloves and pulled down her disposable mask. Her expression was now entirely different, not fearless but focused, laser-focused, decisive. She didn't wait for orders. She moved with the decisive, trained speed of someone advancing towards a firefight. She moved like a predator seeking healing. She ran up the gangway, the large, dark silhouette of the Royal Navy Merlin helicopter growing until she ducked under the spinning rotors and entered the deafening, wind-lashed fuselage. Inside, the scene was catastrophic. A gravely wounded Royal Marine was strapped to a stretcher, surrounded by anxious, inexperienced nurses. Anya held her breath. She froze for a precious, painful second. A fracture in her professional calm. The casualty was Lieutenant Commander Rhys Morgan, her former team leader. The man she had thought dead 3 years ago at the Shadow Ridge catastrophe. The reason she had given up and sought silence. Rhys. Her voice was a choked, cracked whisper, the first genuine, undisguised emotion the hospital staff had ever heard from her. "You're alive." Reese was barely conscious, his breathing shallow and noisy. Penetrating trauma had caused massive, fatal internal chest damage. He tried to speak, his eyes finding hers. I only trust your hands, Anya," he gasped, the words muffled by his oxygen mask. The emotional shock was immediately and completely overwhelmed by professional imperative. Anya lightly slapped her own cheek, a quick, sharp motion to steady herself. He's alive, and seconds from death, he's crashing. His respiratory rate is dropping. He has a tension pneumothorax. We don't have time for an operating theater. We don't have 5 minutes to move him. Her voice returned to that military calm, sharp, commanding, and absolute. I need 2 large-bore IV lines. Give me the needle decompression kit and the chest drain. We're doing chest surgery right now, on this deck, on this stretcher. Vivian Croft, who had followed the crowd and squeezed to the doorway, attempted a final desperate assertion of control, yelling over the engine's roar. "You can't do this. You don't have emergency surgery credentials. This is negligence." Commander Finch, a man who had seen men die needlessly, instantly cut her off, his voice a dangerous growl aimed directly at the nurse manager. "This woman is the finest commando trauma specialist Royal Marines Bravo team has ever had. She is a trauma specialist. Interfering with her work is obstruction of an active military rescue. Stand down, nurse, now." Vivian recoiled, frozen in complete and horrified disbelief. Anya completely ignored the civilian drama. She worked. Her hands moved with an almost unnerving grace. She took the scalpel, made the incision clean, decisive, and precise. She inserted the chest drain, releasing the pressurized air. The sound of air hissing out into the fuselage, a life-saving, highly invasive procedure, performed on a vibrating deck beneath the deafening roar of a Royal Navy Merlin helicopter. It was a masterpiece of trauma medicine. Her hands, the very hands they'd mocked for folding sheets, were now performing the bloody, intricate choreography of life and death with an unequaled efficiency. 12 minutes later, Reese's vital signs stabilized. His heart beat strong and steady. He would live. Commander Finch, a man who had witnessed countless acts of bravery, remained rigid, his eyes reflecting profound respect. He rendered a formal, vigorous salute to the woman in civilian scrubs. "Dr. Sharma, it's an honor. Welcome back." Later that night, one of the young Royal Navy medics, still in shock from the impromptu surgery, spoke to an astonished hospital staff member. "I've seen her do that under heavy fire. She's a machine. But today she was stronger. She had to save the one man who represented her past." The rooftop surgery scene immediately went viral, not just within the hospital, but on local news and then nationally. The entire medical community was abuzz. Newbie nurse performs emergency surgery on Marine aboard helicopter, heroine or outlaw. Hospital director Mr. Jonathan Finch, a man obsessed with procedure, legal liability, and avoiding negative publicity, immediately summoned Anya to his office. "Miss Sharma," he began, his face taut with indignation and fear, "I appreciate the heroic intent, but you are aware you are not permitted to perform invasive surgery in these facilities. This is a severe, prosecutable breach of protocol." He reached for the telephone, ready to call Security Officer Miller and have her removed. "Effective immediately, you are suspended." But before he could dial, the door burst open. 2 Ministry of Defense officials, Major Eleanor Shaw and legal advisor Mr. Ben Carter, strode in. The atmosphere in the room instantly shifted, becoming cold, formal, and overwhelmingly authoritative. The Major carried a folder marked "Confidential." The legal advisor spoke first, his voice dry, commanding, and final. "Director Finch, Miss Sharma is operating under Ministry of Defense Level 5 medical authority. This is an irrevocable status. She retains full surgical and trauma privileges worldwide. She is authorized to perform any procedure necessary to save a life, civilian or military, in any emergency situation, regardless of an institution's internal protocol." Director Finch paled. His indignation instantly melted into palpable fear of federal intervention. Nurse manager Vivian Croft, who had been peering from outside the office with several other nurses, finally stepped inside. Her previous contempt was replaced by genuine confusion and a desperate need for the truth. Who "Who are you, really?" she whispered, the question echoing the fear and astonishment of the entire hospital staff. Dr. Anya Sharma finally met their gaze. Her face held neither triumph nor anger for past mockery. She was simply tired of pretending, tired of running. "I was merely someone who failed. Now I strive to save those others deem beyond saving." The Ministry of Defense officials were not merely there to clarify medical privileges. They were there to address the full ramifications of the rooftop rescue, which had dragged the 3-year-old Shadow Ridge catastrophe back into the spotlight. They publicly confirmed that, during that infamous mission, Dr. Anya Sharma was the sole survivor because she spent the entire evacuation window repeatedly attempting to drag 5 gravely wounded Royal Marines, including Lieutenant Commander Rhys Morgan, through heavy and continuous crossfire. She did not retreat. She ran into the fight again and again until she was the only one left standing. The media descended upon Plymouth General Hospital, transforming it into a temporary news hub. Anya's face, once the quiet one, was now on every screen across the country. She was lauded as a silent hero who had buried her recommendation for the George Cross to avoid public scrutiny. But the most agonizing revelation, the detail that truly broke the story, was yet to come. It was not her heroic tale of saving Rhys that mattered most. It was the truth of why her team died. As the Ministry of Defense investigated the evacuation failure at Shadow Ridge, the truth behind the catastrophe was exposed. The catastrophic cancellation of the extraction order, the very order that left Bravo team exposed and defenseless for 18 crucial minutes, was not a tactical error. It was a deliberate, self-serving blunder by a high-ranking officer who focused entirely on protecting his own politically charged career, not the lives of the soldiers. Anya, the sole survivor who witnessed the failure, provided a deliberately vague and incomplete report to the military afterwards. She chose to protect the reputation of Naval Command, sacrificing her own peace, career, and ability to publicly mourn for the sake of organizational stability. She chose silence over justice for 3 long, agonizing years. Lieutenant Commander Rhys Morgan, now stabilized and conscious in the ICU, awoke and confirmed the entire story, delivering a statement that paralyzed the hospital and the nation. "Anya didn't just save my life on the roof today. She saved me 3 years ago too, swallowing the truth to protect the command that failed us. She bore our failure so the organization wouldn't collapse. She is the strongest person I have ever known." The nation was stunned. The hospital, shocked. Hospital Director Mr. Jonathan Finch publicly apologized to Anya, his voice trembling with humiliation and reverence. Nurse Manager Vivienne Croft pushed through the throng of reporters. She wept openly. She fell to her knees before Anya. "I was so wrong, Sharma. I truly didn't know your story. I called you deadweight and weak." Anya placed a steady hand on Vivienne's shoulder, helping her to her feet. "I have judged others too, Vivienne, especially when I didn't understand their pain. We all carry things no one else can see." She had been judged as weak when, in reality, she was strong enough to bear the weight of the Royal Navy's darkest secret and her own survivor's guilt. Dr. Ethan Davies, the colleague who had doubted her qualifications, observed the interaction from afar. He shook his head slowly. "I've never seen anyone so calm when the cruelty of the past returns to exact its price. She isn't just a hero, she is a moral force of nature." Dr. Anya Sharma's refusal to capitalize on her moment transformed the entire atmosphere of Plymouth General Hospital. She did not seek vengeance, she sought reform. The initial media frenzy diminished, but the respect, the professional admiration remained. The hospital board, recognizing the profound impact of her silent competence and moral strength, called a rare mandatory all-staff meeting. They expected a grand speech about heroism. She walked to the podium, still in her simple uniform. "I do not want recognition," she stated, her voice now clear and firm. The ghost had vanished completely. "I only want this hospital to be a place where everyone is treated as people, not as something to be judged, degraded, or feared." Her words were simple, profound. Active and retired members of the Royal Marines Bravo team sent a video tribute, thanking her for her silence and her strength. They officially dubbed her the Sentinel of the Globe and Laurel, one who placed honor above personal grievance. A high-ranking member of parliament, profoundly moved, offered her the George Cross for civilian bravery. Anya politely but firmly refused. "Give that recognition to the people who fight to save lives every day in this hospital," she requested. "They are the true heroes who run to the blue codes, who face 16-hour shifts. They deserve the honor, not I." Lieutenant Commander Reese Morgan, now recovering and close to discharge, attended the meeting. He intercepted Anya outside. "You fled the shadow, Anya. For 3 years you used the uniform as camouflage. You hid the warrior within the civilian. It is time to step out and lead." Anya looked at him, the first man she had failed to save and then saved. She nodded. The fear was gone. It was time. Hospital Director Mr. Jonathan Finch, now a deeply humbled man, offered her an open position. Any role, any salary. Anya proposed a single radical change, the formation of Anya Sharma's Rapid Response Team, a specialized unit dedicated solely to the most critical emergencies, operating with clear communication, decisive action, and zero tolerance for internal conflict. Nurse manager Vivian Croft, who had previously scoffed at her, stood quietly at the end of the line of applicants. She looked serious. Anya looked at her. Vivian whispered, "I want to be your subordinate, Dr. Sharma. I want to learn what true competence and leadership look like." Anya smiled, a genuine, radiant smile the hospital had never seen. "I do not need perfect people, Vivian, just people willing to change. Welcome aboard." Anya Sharma's Rapid Response Team became the symbol of the hospital's new ethos, quickly achieving legendary status. If you believe the most underestimated person is sometimes the strongest, most resilient and quietest hero, pause a moment now. Type in the comments, "I will be kind." A heart that had endured the extreme violence of the battlefield finally found its healing in the quietude of peace. A year passed. Anya Sharma's Rapid Response Team transformed Plymouth General Hospital into a regional leader in emergency trauma care. Dr. Anya Sharma, now the hospital's head emergency response officer, no longer sought refuge in silence. Her voice carried an unshakable authority, born not of rank, but of proven wisdom. She had seamlessly integrated the deadly efficiency of the commando trauma specialist with the empathetic care of the civilian nurse. She was complete. The ghosts of Shadow Ridge no longer haunted her. Lieutenant Commander Reese Morgan, fully recovered, now worked as a strategic defense consultant and visited the hospital regularly. He was her unofficial partner in team training. Their bond was unbreakable, forged in trauma and cemented by purpose. One day, a terrible school bus crash occurred. Dozens of casualties. When the first helicopter with a casualty landed, Anya and Reese were there. Anya used the military March triage protocol. Massive hemorrhage, airway, respiration, circulation, head injury, hypothermia. She wasted not a second. Clara, casualty 3, massive bleeding to the right leg, immediate tourniquet, and then venous access. Vivian, casualty 5, partial airway occlusion, prepare for intubation and have the Crico kit ready if it fails. Her words were a constant stream of commands, impossible to misinterpret. Reese was by her side, as action coordinator. 3 ambulances arriving in 15 minutes. Keep the route clear. Nobody looks back. Their synchronization was a dance for life. In the chaos, only cold professionalism could defeat death, the mentor's lesson. One day, a newly qualified student nurse named Clara Higgins approached Anya. Her hands trembled. "Chief Sharma," Clara began anxiously, "I am afraid I am not good enough. I dread making a fatal mistake." Anya turned, her face calm. She took the young nurse's trembling hand. "I also feel fear, Clara," Anya said softly. "I felt fear when the rotors were spinning and I had to open Reese Morgan's chest. I was terrified when I had to choose to bear the failure of Naval Command. All of us felt that fear. It never truly disappears." Anya then taught Clara Higgins a simple technique she learned in Royal Marines training, the tactical pause. When panic strikes, Anya instructed, follow the 4-7-8 rule. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and slowly exhale for 8. Just once. In that moment, Clara, you are not a scared person. You are an information processor. You are converting fear into data. Trust your training. You are here because you are ready. Clara tried it and felt a calm spread through her. Resolution, purpose, and closure. Anya was no longer an individual. She was a symbol. She had learned her role wasn't to flee her past, but to use it to light the path for others. The final scene. Anya stands alone on the hospital rooftop as the sun begins to set. Suddenly, a familiar shadow passes overhead. A small Royal Navy Merlin helicopter makes a sharp turn, flying low. The pilot, recognizing the solitary, authoritative figure below, dips the aircraft's nose in a silent, respectful salute to the woman who was both ghost and heroine. Anya offers a slight nod in return, not the rigid stance of a Royal Marine, but the dignified serenity of one who had finally found home in her purpose. The symbol of a closed loop. The small silver Commando Trauma Specialist badge of the Royal Marines she wears, subtly pinned to the collar of her head emergency response officer's uniform, catches the last rays of sun, glinting. Past and present, warrior and healer, finally reflect a single unbroken light of courage, confidence, and peace. Anya Sharma didn't need a George Cross to prove her worth. She needed to save the man who symbolized her failure to prove it to herself. Her journey stands as a testament to the silent strength carried by the underestimated and to the profound, transformative impact of choosing compassion over judgment. If you believe courage still resides in everyday heroes, subscribe to The Veteran's Story. Real people crafting and telling stories, not mass-produced.